Alright everyone, we are currently enjoying a feast of football. Celtic only played like just over a day ago and already we're getting ready for yet another match at Celtic Park tomorrow. It's really great, isn't it? My good festive friend Stevie joined me on the match reaction yesterday. We had a discussion about our win over Motherwell and a good laugh at Rangers, who finished the day 12 points behind us after they lost at St Mirren. So please feel free to check that video out. It is linked above. Today though, we are firing on and we have plenty to discuss. I did notice that the SFA's VAR KMI panel outcomes had been released for the Boxing Day games. And basically this is just a 5-person panel which consists of 3 independent panel members. I'm reading this from the SFA's website. 3 independent panel members with established careers within Scottish football. They can be coaches, former players, members of the media, as well as an SFA representative and a representative from the SPFL clubs. They had unanimously voted 5-0 in favour of Yang's penalty being the right decision. I know there'd been a bit of debate about it being soft, but that is kind of pretty clear evidence, to me anyway, that should have been a penalty. I did notice that one member out of the 5 also felt we should have had a penalty for the handball from the Motherwell player earlier in the half, which I thought was interesting. Very difficult though to work out whether it did actually strike his arm. No mention of the kick to Dyson Maida's head, that in my opinion should certainly have been a penalty, but we may well see that come up in the next instalment of popular show The VAR Review in about 3 weeks or so. So that's all well and good. In other news, reports say we have received some unwelcome interest in Cameron Carter-Vickers. The link, which comes from reliable US journalist Larry Henry Jr., who I think is known to have some sort of insight into the Cameron Carter-Vickers camp. He says that reigning Bundesliga champions Bayer Leverkusen are keen on CCV. Henry's tweet reads, Celtic and US MNT defender Cameron Carter-Vickers is an option for Bayer Leverkusen, multiple sources have confirmed. However, this is just interest. No offer has been made to Celtic. Carter-Vickers still has high aspirations to get back to the English Premier League. His main focus remains on Celtic though, and continuing to help the club to success. 1 trophy in the bag this season, 3 still up for grabs. I don't think Carter-Vickers is going anywhere anytime soon. I reckon he's going to be a long-term Celtic player who stays at the club for a number of years to become, and I reckon by the time he leaves he'll be remembered as the best centre-back we've had in the entire 21st century for what he's done for the club. Pretty big prediction there. Maybe I've had a few festive drinks, but yeah, he'd certainly already be up there as one of the best defenders I've ever seen play for Celtic. So obviously there's been a bit of chatter in recent days about certain players leaving. We had the chat about Kyogo and Atlanta United and the MLS, and now we've had the Leverkusen and Carter-Vickers stuff. I would be pretty astounded if Celtic allow any key players to leave the club during the January window. There's just too much going on. We're going for too much this season, and there's no need for us to sell any of these players in January. So unless like a ridiculous bid comes in, I don't think any players are going to be leaving. The summer may be a different story. You'll probably see at least one kind of big name move on in the summer, whether that's Kyogo or Nicholas Kuhn or Rail Hitati, perhaps. That's just part of the Celtic transfer model. But in terms of January, I would say things are very unlikely. The only players likely to be leaving, I would say, are fringe guys: Stephen Welsh, Lewis Palma, Mike Naropski, potentially Hyunjun Yang as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. In other news, Brendan Rodgers has offered an injury update on Alistair Johnston after Thursday's win over Motherwell. Johnstone has missed our last 2 matches after picking up a hip injury during the first half in Zagreb. He, of course, fought through the pain barrier in the cup final against Rangers, but has missed the past couple of games. Brendan Rodgers explained he should be okay for the weekend. We were hoping it was going to be today, but he's been out running, he's been out working, doing some really good work. So rather than force it, Tony's done great for us and comes into the game and does really well. We don't need to force it. So Celtic are very clearly taking their time with Alistair Johnston, and I really don't have a problem with that at all. That's why guys like Anthony Ralston are there, and Ralston hasn't featured much at all this season, certainly for Celtic. Most of his game times come for Scotland, but when he's required, he comes in. And listen, I'm not going to kid on that Anthony Ralston is as good as Alistair Johnston. I still think we miss Alistair Johnston when he's not playing, of course we do. But I think Ralston has been pretty good over the past couple of games, and you always, you know what you get with Anthony Ralston, you always get 100% commitment and energy up and down that wing. I actually thought he had a really good game against Motherwell. I really like Anthony Ralston. I love what he brings to the club, and I think he's an important part of the squad. So fine if he continues against St Johnstone. I do have a feeling potentially that Alistair Johnston may come back in, maybe play 60 minutes or so in the lead up to Ibrox. But I think just generally speaking, it shows the quality of squad that we have. Maybe this time last year, if someone like Alistair Johnston or Cameron Carter-Vickers was missing games, there'd be a feeling we absolutely have to get them back into the team as soon as possible. But I think just generally speaking, the team can now cope better when certain players are missing. Okay, maybe when you're missing all of them at the same time, like Kuhn and Johnston and Carter-Vickers against Dundee United at Tannadice, it does show. But I think if one or two are missing, we can kind of cope with that pretty well in the majority of matches. And there's just a chance to manage these players like Carter-Vickers and Alistair Johnston that are so important to us. No need to rush them back. Take your time. We've got players who can step in, get some game time during this block of league-only fixtures. And it's all about gearing up for Thursday when hopefully Johnson is back in the team, and I certainly think he will be. In fact, I've got him in the team, the starting team for tomorrow's game against St Johnstone. I'm going with Casper between the sticks. Pretty good looking back four of Alistair Johnston, Cameron Carter-Vickers. I've got Austin Trusty, and I was trying to research earlier and see if the manager had said anything about Trusty, who, like Johnson, hasn't been playing in the past couple of games. I know he was unwell. Cameron Carter-Vickers was as well. Obviously, Carter-Vickers returned against Motherwell. Trusty didn't. So who knows if Trusty will be back or if it will be Liam Scales tomorrow. I'm certainly going with Trusty next to Carter-Vickers ahead of Ibrox. I'm putting Alex Valle in at left back. I think Callum McGregor will clearly start, and then I would switch the two midfielders ahead of him just for that energy that the manager always talks about. So I'm going Rayo Hatate, Luke McCowan, which I'm not sure if we've ever seen that midfield start, or did they start against Dundee United potentially? Yeah, they both did. Forget what I'm saying, everyone. Anyway, I'd like to see that again, and front three, very strong front three of Nicholas Kuhn, Daizen Maeda and Kyogo Furuhashi through the middle. It'd be good to see Kyogo getting back to scoring ways. I'm guessing there's going to be a bit of a debate about who should start at Ibrox. Don't think either Kyogo or Ida are like at the top of their game at the moment and particularly confident, as I said yesterday. Or maybe it was on the Celtic way actually. But I thought Adam Ida had a pretty decent game against Motherwell. I thought his first touch was good. He was linking the play quite well. It was just his final product, that final shot, didn't quite come off for him. He was slicing some stuff wide. But it's not as if he had like an absolute sitter that he missed. So I would put Kyogo back in tomorrow and really hope that he can have a good game and just get back to that top level ahead of Ibrox. But that's a debate we can have about Ibrox ahead of that game. But a pretty strong team for tomorrow, and I think we should be all right. I mean, St Johnstone are bottom of the Premiership. They are favourites to be relegated at this stage. They've had 4 wins all season, now managed by Finnish former player Simo Valakari, who hasn't really been able to improve their fortunes too much. They've had 6 defeats from their last 8 matches, although I was looking and all of those defeats have been by just the 1 goal, so it's not as if they're being outclassed or battered by any teams. They just have a bit of an issue in losing all these tight matches at the moment. We did, of course, beat them 6-0 in Perth earlier this season, and I would expect another pretty comfortable win tomorrow. It's one of 6 matches in the Premiership. Every team is in action for the final time in 2024. A couple of televised games that don't include us. Motherwell versus Rangers is on at the same time, which will be interesting, I think. And Dundee United versus Aberdeen is a 5:15 kickoff, and that's live on Premier Sports. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's Celtic's final match of 2024, and 2024 may well go down as one of the finest years in the entire history of our great club. And I know you might be thinking, really, Hamish? But let me just try and make this point over the next several minutes. And first of all, I'll make the point that you all know that we won 3 trophies this calendar year. We obviously were not in a great position this time last year. We felt an even worse position in February, March, and then revived our hopes, got a bit of help from across the city, but certainly won the league rather than them losing it. Then won the Scottish Cup against our rivals, and then beat them again in the League Cup. So we effectively won a treble in 2024. But I want to talk a wee bit about another record that has been spoken about a little bit, but probably isn't being given the credit that it deserves. First of all, Brendan Rodgers. I can't have too many complaints, really. I heard someone say the other day, some of the supporters were saying, I don't think we need to panic. That was an interesting one because we drew a game. My idea is the long game. I've got to look after the whole campaign and get us through game after game when it's so busy. Until this point, the players have been absolutely fantastic, only having lost 2 games. One of them away back against 10 men and one against the Champions League finalists. So someone in the Celtic support was saying about not panicking.
You know what? I'm not going to start panicking. You know, we've still got a healthy lead at the top. God forbid we don't win both games. Then I think it's fair to say to people, yeah, maybe it is start time to maybe panic or question certain individuals.
Brendan going for Stevie. That's my manager. What a guy. Keep this up, Brendan. I would love this to just become a narrative. He's obviously watching. I mean, that much is clear now. And if you're looking for a wee stat to roll out after the game on Sunday, Brendan, have a wee look at this. Now, he is, of course, right. Celtic have lost just 2 matches in 2024. And even if we lose against St Johnstone tomorrow, it will still be the fewest number of losses we've had in a calendar year since 1919. Yes, that is right. We also had 2 losses that season. I don't think many of you will remember it. Against St Mirren and Rangers. We played 43 matches that season. Of course, there was no European football at that stage. Tomorrow is our 58th match of 2024. Now, it may be hard for you to relate to 1919. So I took a wee look back at each year over the past 3 decades, the past 30 years. And this year stacks up incredibly well. I'm well aware, by the way, that football isn't really judged on years, it's judged on seasons. But I think this is interesting. Now, take a look at this. This is the number of defeats Celtic have had in each calendar year since 1995. So the last 30 years, starting with the current year, which is obviously not over yet, still got 1 game to play on the left-hand side, 2 defeats. And just look at the rest of the years. Now, the best other than this year was in both 2002 and 2006 when we lost 6 matches. And even that, which is an excellent record, is 3 times as many losses as we've had this year. I mean, we lost 9 matches in 2023, 8 in 2022. So to lose 2 matches this whole calendar year is just ridiculous. It has been an astonishing year of consistency, and there may be some reasons for this. I think Some people might point to the fact that maybe the rest of the league isn't as strong as it used to be, or certainly there's a larger gap these days. Maybe things like the 5-sub rule have helped grow that gap. And it certainly feels kind of since Brendan Rodgers came into the club in 2016 and we had that invincible season, and obviously Postecoglou continued it, now Rodgers is continuing it. It has felt generally like Celtic are more consistent and certainly don't lose as many games as we would have, even under the brilliant teams of like Gordon Strachan and Martin O'Neill at the start of the 21st century. But, you know, in all competitions, to have only lost 2 matches, I mean, we've played 6 games in the Champions League and only lost 1 against some really good teams, is, I think, just an excellent record. And it really has been one of the best calendar years ever to have supported Celtic. So I expect Brendan Rodgers to mention that a bit more. But yeah, we've witnessed an incredible year with all the trophies, all the great performances, and to only have that losing feeling twice this calendar year is remarkable. And hopefully the team can continue that and certainly not lose tomorrow's match against St Johnstone. Not too many people would be expecting to see that, but just generally speaking, hoping to see a really positive performance from the team tomorrow, and obviously lots of goals, and ideally, as Stevie said yesterday, being able to maybe rotate a few players as we move into the final half an hour or so, and just keep people fresh and ticking over for Ibrox, which is obviously the really big game that everyone's focused on. Official wise for tomorrow, we've got referee Matthew McDermott, assistant referees Frank Connor and David Dunn. VAR is David Dickinson, and assistant VAR is Graham Leslie. So enjoy yourself if you're going down to Celtic Park tomorrow. Hopefully the team put in a good show and really round off the year in style. And I'll be back on Friday looking back at the game.